Hi everyone, this is Jewish Talk coming to you from Nassau Community College on 90.3 WHPC, also streaming on nccradio.org. That is our website, online, worldwide, nccradio.org. That means you can listen to us all over the world, even if you're not within radio listening land. This program is later archived on Spreaker.com. This program is repeated on Sunday evenings for your convenience at 11 p.m., so tell your friends and your neighbors, and especially those you don't like, they should stay up at 11 p.m. and listen to the rabbi on this very same station, 90.3 WHPC. So hi there, my name is Rabbi Perl. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This all depends on when you are listening and joining us today. So where do we begin? Before I get into a number of interesting conversations about why would God make babies sick, what is the secret of faith, can you celebrate after a death, what do you say to someone who has given up, I'm going to share a number of things in that vein. But let me first share with you what I think is a very, very insightful thought about we live in life, and we all want to be a proper vessel for blessings. But we need to have the appropriate blessings and the proper circumstances, right? So in a certain sense, we have to create the environment into which blessings come. Following the Jewish people's exodus from Egypt, after receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai, we were all instructed to build a sanctuary. In Hebrew it's called a mishkan. This means a dwelling place in which we could encounter the presence of the Creator. As the Torah tells us, God speaks to Moses saying, Dabe el b'nei Yisrael, you should take for me an offering, and they shall make me a sanctuary, and I will dwell in their midst. V'yosli migdash v'shochanti b'soicha. The Jewish people needed a method for encountering the divine presence, and they needed to know that the Almighty God was dwelling in their midst. Fine. But why precisely is our question this morning? Why was it so necessary for a building, a mishkan, to accomplish this? Perhaps some other method or idea could communicate God's presence. Why was it presented that we want to feel God's presence? Build me a building, build me a structure. People ask me from time to time, what do I need to go to shul for? What do I need to go to this structure for? God is everywhere. But here the Torah is clearly saying that the expression, the encounter with the presence of God is build me, vasli migdash, make for me a sanctuary, build me a structure. To answer this, we need to know really what precipitated this command, as it were. This happens to be the essence of an important debate between great medieval scholars of France and Catalonia, the Rashi and the Ramban. One was from France and one was from Catalonia, the Ramban, Nachmanides, where they discussed this commandment. And this was their conversation. Were they told to construct the Mishkan directly after the revelation at Mount Sinai? Or is the text out of chronological order? And that means the command to build the Mishkan directly after the episode of the golden calf. So these are the two opinions. When the command came, did it come to us after the Torah at Mount Sinai? Or did it come to us after the event of the golden calf? First, let us consider the Zohar, which interprets the events in a chronological order and understands this to be a logical sequence to the events of Mount Sinai. So this mitzvah, this learning, this reading comes to us just following the Torah portions of Yisro, which is when the Torah was given at Mount Sinai. And they read that, yes, it came on a chronological order. In this way, the Mishkan is a recreation of the spiritual, transcendental Sinai experience in real time in intangible physical space. This means that the Mishkan served to recreate Matan Torah within space. So what we experience surrounding a mountain, weeks later, we took it into a reality and made a building out of it. In this way, we were able to carry with them the experience of Mount Sinai wherever they traveled. This is the Ramban's, Nachmanides' opinion as well. The transcendent experience of Mount Sinai precipitated the need for a mobile vehicle of Sinai in this world of space. This is the opinion of the Zohar and the opinion of Nachmanides. The Jewish people experienced such an amazing spiritual awakening when they received the Torah with all of its laws. It was a transformative, mystical experience. So they now required a vessel to contain that which they had received. Through this receptacle, the inspiration would be retained and kept alive. Similar, right? We have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then we leave our homes and we go into a sukkah. And one of the reasons why specifically a sukkah at that time is to take everything that we've gathered and been blessed with through the high holidays and brought it into a vehicle, a vessel of a sukkah. So the Mishkan served as a place in which all that they had received could now be contained. And in that way, the initial spiritual, highly coupled event at Mount Sinai would now stay with them, could be centered, could be drawn into, would be part of them as they travel through the journeys of the desert. Let's take a simple example of this idea in our lives with regard to our emotions. An emotion that is felt, however strongly at the moment, can easily be lost and forgotten with time. If something tangible is produced or acquired as a vessel to preserve the memory, then even when the initial excitement is past, that feeling can always be accessed through that tangible example. Let's give me an example. When someone feels an intense stirring of love and then purchases a piece of jewelry, a photo, or a keepsake for their loved one, this provides them a tangible expression. You love your spouse, you love your kids, you buy them a gift. You're giving them a tangible expression. So that gift will have the power to reawaken and reestablish that feeling at much later time. So, dear friends, if you are thinking of giving your spouse a gift, go and do it. Don't just tell them you love them. Show them. Give them a vessel. Buy them that jewelry that they always wanted. In that way, the Mishkan, in our conversation, being a gift object born of our affection, that became the vessel for our love and commitment to Hashem. So, from this perspective, it was a physical embodiment of the spiritual experience of Sinai, being able to reawaken and the divine and self-revelation as long as it existed. In fact, one of the reasons why we read the Torah in the synagogue Monday, Thursday, and especially on Shabbos is to relive the Mount Sinai experience. We read the Torah portion just as it was given to us at Mount Sinai. We do something every week to be part of it, to living with it. From another vantage point, the rooting of spiritual and mystical experiences in the creation of this Mishkan ensured that the high, so to speak, of the Sinai experience was now directed into a holy vessel. The energy of this heightened experience needed an outlet. And since it was not channeled immediately, if it was not done immediately, enthusiastically, in building a holy vessel, look what happened. It was channeled enthusiastically in fashioning an idol. This is Rashi's answer to the debate with the Ramban. So while the Ramban's answer is that they had the experience of Mount Sinai, and immediately they made that vessel a conduit to bring it into reality, and they built this Mishkan, an appropriate holy vessel. Rashi holds that they didn't do it right away. So rather than making a vessel which was appropriate, they used their energy and created a golden calf, and then came the building afterwards of the Mishkan, and therefore he holds it came after the golden calf. In our lives, it works the same way. Any high that is not channeled for a positive will inevitably be channeled to the negative. We have a choice. The intense energy will need to go somewhere, and we need to direct it into an appropriate vessel. And by all means, not into an idol, whether metaphorically or real. For example, when a person who was in debt wins a lottery, oi gewalt, is he in euphoria? They often overspend, and within a short time, they are back in debt. What's the appropriate vessel in such a case if you win? Is to immediately speak to your lawyer, to your financial advisor, or your trustee to help you focus and bring it into reality. The Baal Shem Tov teaches that some people pray with great fervor and intention, only to direct their spiritual energy into anger or frivolity later on. Anger and frivolity are both likened to idol worship and represent the devastating fall into worshipping the golden calf. In our society, we have to be very vigilant, not only around the after effects of spiritual heights in intensive prayer, prolonged study, fasting, or deep contemplation or meditation, but also the effects of other highs, such as engaging in sports or exercise, earning or investing money, drinking alcohol, playing music or dancing, having philosophical epiphanies, taking vacations, moving to a foreign country, acing exams, making art, creating an invention or technological or other social advances, speaking or performing publicly, becoming an authority or some famous figure, or just changing your mode of dress. We have to be careful as well with that. So whatever gives you a very heightened sense of aliveness, bliss or ecstasy, or some sort of adrenaline or dopamine rush, or even very deep relaxation, freedom or silence, has a powerful after effect. When the body and the soul are energized or uplifted, we need to contain that energetic influx and direct it into productive and positive actions, and ultimately in the service of the divine presence that dwells in the midst of creation and inside of every one of us. So, what would be the energy of the week? What am I living with this week? The Torah portion imbues us with the power and the motivation to root each of our expansive experiences in life, emotions, thoughts, ideas, and creative energies into a kli. You got to build, you got to put it into a vessel. The good that we contain, we can maintain. If we don't harness it, it remains transient, intangible, ultimately dissatisfying. Coming to synagogue and being inspired by good words and by camaraderie and the holiness of the shul must lead to a vessel implementing that into our daily lives. We will continue to feel empty or depleted and seek that stimulus again if we don't bring it into a kli, into a vessel. Such a cycle of gaining spiritual heights and then losing them cannot be redemptive. It's not good. The transformational potential is never assimilated and put into action. Let us this week practice this idea of putting the spirituality into action, because we are empowered this week to create firm, positive, life-affirming kalim, vessels of action, so that our highs can be integrated into this world, into our bodies, and be truly transformative. That is why, as I mentioned earlier on, the fascinating idea that after the high of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we don't just run. Immediately, right after Yom Kippur, the first thing we do when we get home, besides a good eating, etc., we build or we speak about this the sukkah that we build, putting everything into a mitzvah environment, into a holy environment. And it's interesting, what vessel do we build after the highs of high holidays? A very inclusive one, where all of us, family and friends, come into the sukkah. Because true transformative spirituality is not just for ourselves, but to be a good influence on others and making the difference in the world around us. To all of us to be ambassadors of light. A true celebration of Sukkot is with others, with family, with friends, with celebrations, with barbecues, as we in Mineola are traditionally to have, where so many people come and enjoy taking the high holiday expressions of prayer and thought and learning and bringing it into reality of sharing with others a Mishkan. So what the temple was in the Mishkan in the wilderness, or the temple in Jerusalem, becomes, in a sense, on a high holiday period, the Sukkah, and also this coming to shul on the Shabbos. What do we do on the Shabbos today? Our shul, our synagogues, all of us that go to synagogue, are really taking all of our blessings and all the excitement of the week and bringing it into a keli, into a vessel, into a sanctuary, the sanctuary of a Shabbos. And what's the shul? The shul is made up of men and women and prayer and words of Torah and a few l'chaims, where we're taking something and bringing it into action, into a real vessel that's permanent. And therefore, when we leave the synagogue, we come inspired to pass this on to ourselves, to our immediate community, and to the wider community all around. An individual I know, thank God, was blessed with the stocks that went up amazingly this week, and immediately turn it into action, turn it into a sanctuary by bringing it and giving a large donation. It's just one example, my friends, of taking a blessing, an inspiration, and bringing it into action. And an action that is like a sukkah, where many people can benefit from it, or the synagogue, where many people come. And this allows me this opportunity to thank all those who have chosen to come to our synagogue, Congregation Beth Shalom Chabad of Mineola, 261 Willis Avenue, and everyone listening. If you have a Shabbos off, or you don't have a synagogue to go, or you happen to be going through Mineola, everyone is welcome to join us. Our services begin on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. They last about 2 hours, always followed by a Kiddush. Thank you to the sponsors. And we actually study together at 9 a.m., 9 to 10, every Shabbos morning. So coming to our synagogue, we have a plethora, you could say, if that's the right word. We have a smorgasbord of the learning of Torah, of prayer, and acts of kindness to each other at the time of Kiddush. The world stands on three things, my friends, three relationships. And on Shabbos, in our sanctuary of our synagogue, we strengthen those three pillars of the world. We strengthen it by learning Torah, listening to what God's relationship to us through the words of Torah. We strengthen our relationship to God through words of prayer. So that God to us through Torah, we to God through prayer, our words of prayer. And of course, equal with these two is our acts of goodness and kindness, of friendship to each other, recognition of each other. We study, we learn together, we enjoy a good Kiddush together. These are all part of a reality of acts of kindness that complete the relationship. So again, God speaks to us, we speak to God, and of course, we also speak to each other. So we have the three things that the world, three pillars upon which the world stands. Let's now talk about a number of subjects that are important to us. And I dedicate this to a young little girl who lost her life in Arizona, I believe. And sadly, she was playing on the tree. The tree came down, hit her on the head, and she passed away. And the parents are devastated. The grandparents, who I know very well. It's really very sad. A beautiful family, originally from Long Island, and moved out to Arizona. So I dedicate these thoughts, questions that would relate to why would God make babies sick? How can we celebrate after a death? What to say to someone who has given up? Things like this. So let's first begin. Why would God make babies sick? And many have expressed, I'm angry with God right now. Why? What was the reason in this case, dear friends? We've been trying to fall pregnant for several years since our oldest was born. Our prayers were finally answered. Well, sort of. And the lady writes to us, I'm pregnant, but the doctors say that my baby has a rare condition with very little chance to survive to term, and even less chance of surviving after birth for more than a few days. I just don't get it. Why would God do that to me? Dear friends, you know me a long time. I don't have no answers for such things because I know the pain is real. And your anger with God is actually understandable. I can't, and I'm not going to give you an explanation. All I can offer is friendship and support. And I'm going to tell you a story. There was a soul in heaven waiting to come down to this earth. Unlike other souls who need to battle through life in a body for decades, this soul's mission would be brief. She would only be on earth for a short time. Then she'd be free to fly back to her heavenly home. The appointed day was approaching for this precious soul to descend to the world. In heaven, the big question was asked, which family will be chosen to host this holy soul? It couldn't just be any family. They need to be able to provide the soul with the love and the warmth she deserves. Their resilience will be tested to the extreme. They will experience grief, but they will be touched by a peace of heaven. Such a soul can only be sent down to parents with big hearts, with the extra capacity to love unconditionally and ask for nothing in return. The family would need to have unshakable faith and the quiet humility to accept that we can't always understand why. Because up in heaven, the reasons are known, but down here on earth, we ain't got no clue. The mother will have to find awesome inner strength and almost superhuman selfless devotion to carry and care for a baby each day without knowing what tomorrow will bring. Only God knows who is up to this task, and it's you. You were chosen to be that mother. Your family is the warmth and the loving haven for this delicate soul. Dig deep within your crying heart and open a chamber of limitless love for the beautiful soul that was entrusted to you. Create a space of happiness and warmth for her. Cherish whatever time you have together. It may be brief, but the love will be forever. We have to live with unanswerable questions. There's so much we don't know. But what we do know is that this soul has found the right home. Let's continue. What is the secret of faith? This person was looking for teachings that could help her not lose faith. Because she said there's so many people around her who are suffering. What spiritual assistance do our forefathers and our matriarchs and patriarchs tell themselves to manage through immense tragedies that they have witnessed in their lives? And the person was honest with me. I already know how to self-care. I see a therapist. I joined a support group. I talked to friends. I did all of that. But I really am looking for something deeper, for the secret of faith. An important question, my friends. I recently read the biography of a man who kept his faith during suffering. His name is Rabbi Yehuda Halberstam, known as the Kloisenberger Rebbe. He lost his wife and 11 children in the Holocaust. His community was decimated. After surviving Auschwitz all alone, he went about the awesome task of rebuilding, starting a new family and piecing together a community. And guess what? He succeeded. He built schools and orphanages, founded a hospital, and opened dozens of synagogues. He's one of the many incredible tales of determination and survival that are sadly not uncommon to the history of our people. Reading this story, dear friends, I was curious to learn his philosophy and how to survive through tragedy. I expected to find some, teachings of wisdom, some psychological insights, or some spiritual perspectives on facing adversity, keeping faith, and moving on with tragedy. After all, this was a man who experienced the darkest pain imaginable and came out beaming with light. He lost everything, but he never lost his faith. Who could better teach the secret of survival? But there was none. This is just a story of a man who continued to do good for other human beings in spite of the tragedies he faced. At first, I was a little confused. How did he do it? What kept him going? Then I realized what exactly the message was. There is no secret. In fact, there is no secret. The no secret was in fact the secret. His faith was not based on any philosophies. He didn't have faith because life is good. He didn't lose it when life is not good. His was a faith that stems from the depth of his soul, a conviction that cannot be budged by anything in the world. He didn't need to be convinced of faith. It's just a fact. It just is. It's there. It's inside of every one of us. We're born with it. A man of faith is not immune to pain. He feels the pain acutely, but he never lets that stop him from fulfilling his life's mission to bring good to the world, no matter what. Just because the world seems bad, that doesn't mean I won't keep doing good. You are facing a moment in life that stretches your faith to its limit. Now is the time to strengthen that faith. Without denying the pain you are in, and in the suffering you are witnessing, you need to keep strong and maintain hope. And you need to keep doing good. That's the secret of faith. It lies inside of our soul. And that soul given to us by God from the moment we're born gets us through everything. Now, keeping in mind our subject matter for today, I continue these thoughts. How can you celebrate after a death? Sadly, a woman I know tragically passed away last week, the day before her daughter's wedding. As I understand it, as we all know, Jewish law says the wedding should go ahead. Does that make sense? How can anyone celebrate a wedding after experiencing such pain? Allow me to share with you some thoughts. Every person goes through pain. Every person has times of joy. Sometimes we are challenged with experiencing both at the same time. And the human heart has an amazing capacity to hold conflicting emotions all at once. There is a Kabbalistic teaching that the heart has two sides, two distinct chambers. We can feel intense pain in one side of the heart and profound joy in the other. In fact, not only can those two strong emotions coexist, but they also sometimes stem from the same source. The death of a loved one hurts so much because we feel our connection is lost. The pain is deeper when the bond is deeper. This is the pain of love. A wedding is so joyous because it celebrates the union of souls, the connection that is being created under the chuppah. The sense of being whole brings a profound sense of happiness. This is the joy of love. In fact, in our tradition, under the chuppah, the previous Rebbe emphasized this, and when I'm blessed with the opportunity to officiate a wedding, I make a point of announcing under the chuppah the loved ones of both sides, those who've passed on. We mention their names. We mention the souls that have passed away, even as we speak about the two new souls right under the chuppah, the boy and the girl, the man and the woman. So, your friend, when we talk about this wedding, we're experiencing two opposite emotions, pain and joy, all at once. One side of the heart can be full of joy, while the other cries out in pain. Because on a deeper level, both come from the same source. Love is the result of human connection, and pain comes from the very same connection. We only feel pain because we love, and our capacity for love is broadened when our heart feels pain. So therefore, it's not a betrayal of her mother to celebrate. The wedding must go on. We're actually honoring her. May God give her strength to be able to move between the two sides of her heart, to allow the pain to fully express itself, and to allow the joy to shine through. And there are many, many laws in Jewish law of mourning that mitigates. For example, if the parent loses a parent, is in the week of Shiva, and they already had a scheduled marriage of one of their children. I know someone particularly. They came and they acted as, they came to the wedding, they were there, and during the meal, they went around, acted like a waiter or a waitress, and they served drinks, etc. So they were part of the, you could say, the working side of the celebration. So they were able to be there. But on a deeper level, the connection to souls in heaven are being experienced with the connection of souls at the wedding, even if it's during the same time. My friends, let's continue this. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who joins each and every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. on 90.3 WHPC, the opportunity for us to share ideas, thoughts that uplift and create a greater bond of respect and sensitivity to each other. So let me focus again. What do we say to someone who has given up? Person, emailed, I've just seen a disturbing post from a young man I know. We once acted in a play together. and we've kept a minimal touch with each other. He just posted a very distressing message. "I'm sorry, everyone. I'm giving up. Thanks for trying." It appears that he's been suffering from depression and has been institutionalized. They are monitoring him closely, and he's getting whatever treatment he needs. But as a friend, what words of encouragement or wisdom can I possibly offer that might make a difference? I am not the sharpest tack in the case, but I'm going to share with you some thoughts. It's come from my own experience. You may not know this, dear friends, but first 25 years of my position as a Chabad rabbi, I was the rabbi, the clergy at a mandated drug rehab in Plainview. It was called Topic House. And then later on, when that closed down, I focused on being the rabbi, the chaplain at the Nassau County Jail, and continue that, Baruch Hashem, as well as the resident rabbi at NYU Langone, Long Island, in Mineola, formerly known as Winthrop University Hospital. This has come from my experiences, and I thank Hashem for the lessons I've learned. Firstly, I want to commend you for reaching out. Any message of support, just saying you care and that you're there, has immense power. Anything but silence is already a positive step. But maybe there's another way as well to make a difference. Rather than help him, you can turn it around. Ask him for help. Recently, we've been studying on a weekly basis advice from the Rebbe, of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, from the many, many volumes of advice and answers he gave on every area of life. And one of the things that we recently learnt was the accountant to the Rebbe, to the headquarters. His name was Rabbi Telushkin. And he had a heart attack, or perhaps a stroke. I think it was a stroke. And he found himself in ICU for a while. And an accounting question came up at headquarters. And the Rebbe said, ask this man his advice. His son, Rabbi Telushkin, Joseph Telushkin, recalls this. And he said, my father's in ICU and is going through this, this danger and emergency in his life. And the Rebbe is asking an accounting question and asking specifically for him to answer it. Rabbi Telushkin said what he learned from there was, when the Rebbe insisted that when someone's down and out, they suddenly feel needed, not needed anymore, non-productive, out. The Rebbe was emphasizing, make the person feel in a positive way that their input is still alive and well. Make the person productive. Give them an opportunity to help. So I too share this with this person. Not only, of course, do things to help him, ask him for help. When you contact him, put aside the illness as if it doesn't exist for the moment and ask him for some advice. Think of his area of expertise and talent and tell him you need his assistance. He is an actor and you're working on a drama piece. Ask him how would you approach a difficult scene or how to present a particular character. This will be more than telling him that you matter and that you are needed. It will actually make him needed. Not just telling him, it'll make him needed. He's giving you advice. Now, obviously, we're dealing here with some serious health issues. They will not go away with one little conversation. He might not work at all. He may not even be receptive to being asked, or he may be incapable of responding. But if you have even a slight chance of getting through to him, it is worth a try. It might give him a moment of not being absorbed in his own issues. If he can focus on someone else for even a short time, that may serve as a little gasp of air, and he may be lifted, even if momentarily, above his darkness. Sometimes, the trap of depression is the self-absorption it brings. The best antidote for that is serving others. Give him a chance to do that. If nothing else, you'll have expressed to him that whatever he is going through, he can still contribute to the world. And you value him enough to ask. That may just need, this is just what he may be needing at that particular moment. And I share with you, as the resident rabbi of the hospital, I am called when the family wishes a rabbi, when a person is facing, a conclusion of life. And I'm not here to tell you that I am the big wonder man, but one of the things I love doing, I'm usually around the bed. The person may still be awake and cognizant, going through those stages. And I often ask a person or the family, what was his or her favorite Jewish song? Invariably, here in Long Island, everybody loves the song Dayenu, because everybody gets together for the Seder. It could be a song from the high holidays. And a couple of weeks ago, on a Friday, I was called. I'd seen this person several times, and I'd seen the decline. The family was around the bed, and I asked him, please, what's your favorite song? And the family said, he loved the song for the high holidays. And we sung the song. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'aneinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'aneinu, Ki ein banu maasim, Aseh imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed. And as we were singing the song, he sung along as well. He opened his eyes and he was singing along. He was mouthing the words. The family became it was such an emotional feeling in the family. I felt the tears. I had tears. My friends, he was mouthing along. It meant something to him. It brought that memory back to him. And then we said, what's your favorite Sabbath song or Shabbos song? And we sang together, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShores, Malachei Elyon. At that moment, I'm not sure if it was his wife or his sister, an elderly lady said, I want to tell you something interesting, Rabbi. He says, years ago, he was a salesman in his profession. And one day, his sister said to him, if you had your choice, what would you like to be? What you have liked to have been in the course of your life? My friends, this happened to me. I saw it with my own eyes. She said he'd like to become a chazan, a cantor. I came with this idea of getting him to sing. Turns out he wanted to be a cantor. He wanted to sing. He started to sing the songs that we sang. We sang the Manishtana of the Seder. Ilu hotzi yanu min Mitzrayim, hotzi yanu min Mitzrayim, dayenu. Hey, dayenu, dayenu, dayenu. My friends, I saw with my own eyes. You give somebody under those circumstances, you ask them to help you, to tell you, in my small-minded way, what's your song? What would you like to contribute? And I said to the family then, every one of us brings music to this world, either as a part of what's it called, philharmonic, part of an orchestra, part of a band, whatever. But even if you're not a musician, you don't have your instrument, but everyone's soul brings songs, brings brightness, brings holiness to this world. Every one of us, Kol Hanshama, every soul to Hallel, brings praise to the Almighty God, each in our own way. So what do you say to someone who may be down and out? Not only show them empathy and love, ask them a question, ask them for their advice, give them a sense of belonging, of being needed, not just in a fake way, but in a real, sincere way. And just as I saw, you will see what an amazing difference it makes to that person, even for that moment. Let's continue. Let's continue these conversations. Everything has always come, this person said, to him easy. But recently, some things have changed. So the person has been exploring their spiritual side. And the person says, I feel a strong pull to it. I also feel a certain heaviness comes with it. I thought praying and studying Torah would bring me peace. But in many ways, it has made my life more complicated and hard. So my question is, if it's all so hard, maybe that means it's not for me. There was once a simple villager who won the lottery. In the olden days, this meant literally winning a pot of gold. So with excitement and anticipation, he set out on foot for a 3-day journey to the big city to collect his winnings. When he came to the lottery office and saw his prize, he realized that he could not possibly carry such a heavy pot of gold home. So with some of his new wealth, he hired a wagon driver with a strong horse to carry him and his pot back to his village. The journey took several hours. Along the way, they stopped off at the side of the road for a little rest. The wagon driver parked the wagon in what seemed to be a safe spot, and the villager had a little nap under the tree. Refreshed and ready to go, they jumped back into the wagon and continued the journey. But after a short while, the wagon driver stopped and said, I think your pot of gold has been stolen. The villager quickly went to check. To his great distress, Gewalt! He saw that indeed the pot was gone. The villager immediately turned suspiciously to the wagon driver and asked him, kind of accusingly, how did you know the pot was stolen without even looking into the back of the wagon? And the wagon driver answered, it was obvious. When we were traveling earlier, before we stopped for a break, the horse was struggling under the heavy load. But since we resumed our journey, the horse is galloping so easily and effortlessly that I could tell that he's not pulling a heavy weight at all. Only an empty load is easy to carry. When you have a pot of gold in your wagon, it takes effort to carry it. My friend, the same applies to you, applies to all of us. When life seems tough, when we need to put effort in and struggle to keep it moving, it means that we're carrying a treasure inside of ourselves. The smooth and easy times may be pleasant, but the riches of life come when there's things that include hard work. So I say to myself, I say to you, we say to each other, let's all keep pulling the load and be thankful for it. Only a horse is happy with an empty wagon. But you and me and all of us are carrying a pot of gold. We're carrying our neshama. We're carrying our responsibilities. It may be hard, but baby, we're carrying a pot of gold. Let's continue. Let's continue, my friends. There's so much, another person really spoke his heart out recently. And the person was asking me why God gave him mental illness. Why do you make him suffer? He said, I'm not a bad person. Every soul journeys down into this world with two suitcases. One is full of challenges the soul has to face during his lifetime. The other is full of talents and strengths necessary to withstand those challenges. The suitcase of challenges is open for you during the course of our lifetime. The suitcase of strengths we have to open up ourselves. Your soul's challenge is mental illness. I don't know why. But I do know that your mission is to use your talents to turn the pain and the frustration into a positive force. Because of your openness and willingness to share your experiences, you are an inspiration to others who have mental illness. You bring hope and light to those who are not as strong as you by showing them just how much they can achieve if they focus on their abilities. You can also bring understanding and insight to those who have not themselves experienced the pain of mental illness. I, for one, have learned an invaluable lesson speaking to you. Do you remember our conversation when I asked you what was the hardest thing about having a mental illness? You said it was silence. When people discover that you suffer from mental illness, they don't know what to say, and the conversation comes to an abrupt and an awkward end. So I ask you, what would you like them to say? And I share with you, dear radio audience, this answer amazed me. This person said, I wish they would ask me questions about my illness. I wish they would show an interest in understanding what I'm going through. I wish they would give me the chance to share what I'm experiencing rather than let me suffer alone in silence. I'm not sure everyone is as willing to talk, as this person was. But I suspect for many, the stigma people attach to mental illness hurts more than anything else. There was a gentleman on Shabbos, we give blessings for those who are not well. And one of the person came over to me and whispered in my ear, is it okay to say a Misha Berach, a blessing for recovery for someone facing mental illness? I hugged him. I said, absolutely, of course. So, again, thank you for letting me know and letting me know from your perspective. I promise, and that's where I learned this, my friends, to learn to be open, understanding of a person, whatever the challenge may be. God has presented different souls with different challenges, but we should all know that with the challenge, people have a personality, a warm personality, a strength of character, talents that help the person stand up to the challenge they face. And dear friends, that's why I share this with the world now of how to help someone. As I said earlier on, someone should not feel alone. Make them feel productive. Ask them questions, either in their world of profession or whatever or their talents. And don't allow a person to suffer alone. Showing interest, allowing them to share, seeing how people care for them under those circumstances makes a world of differences. Let me conclude very briefly about the tragedy of suicide. It's a question I often hear about this, conflicting thoughts about whether to say Kaddish and mourning for a person who committed suicide. Taking a life is murder. This includes taking one's own life. We did not choose to be born. It is not our choice when to die. For this reason, suicide is considered a crime against God, oneself, and those around us. It has, therefore, been the practice to bury a suicide in a separate section of the cemetery, not to mourn or to say Kaddish for them, and not to eulogize or honor them. However, my friends, listen carefully. This only applies when we're absolutely certain that the person was mentally clear and emotionally stable when they chose to take their own life, and they did not regret doing so right up to the last moment. Is that even possible? Is it fathomable that someone in their right mind would kill themselves? It certainly was in the past. There were periods in history when suicide was considered an honorable act. In some societies, personal honor was valued above life itself, and people would rather lose their life than lose their pride. In those cultures, killing oneself to be spared from disgrace was a rational choice and couldn't be assumed as of being done under psychological duress. But my friends, listen carefully. This cannot be said about our current Western society. The overwhelming majority of suicides today are precipitated by mental instability. We can assume that anyone who actually kills themselves does so under unbearable psychological strain and may be regretted when it was too late. They cannot be held fully accountable and for their tragic decision to end their life. And so therefore, although they did something not so positive, they deserve not to be scorned, but rather our sympathy. And therefore, let me conclude that their souls need us to say Kaddish and to pray for them in the next world, and with that they will find ultimate peace. My friends, please consider thoughtfully the many subjects that we shared today. And as I mentioned earlier on always take the inspiration that we get and put it into a sanctuary, put it into our lives in the day-to-day action, and that'll make a difference. To be more sympathetic, more sensitive, more caring, more understanding of people under most trying of circumstances. And I will tell you a secret, my friends. The more we help others, the more inspired we are ourselves. We help others, we're helped ourselves. Because if we're doing this with a truth, with sincerity, and with an openness, and with an appreciation of the Almighty God, we can make such a difference in everyone's life, including ourselves. Shalom. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
1, 2, 3, 4.